Hello, my name is Hoodie-Guy, and I'm developing a game named Hollow Dawn. Now it's understandable if you've never heard that name before, because I haven't really publicized it, mostly considering that I started it a long while ago, yet never really got it into a trailer state or playable state. Now this does come from one issue that I think is the most prevalent, which is that I tried to make my dream game on the first go around. I'll show some footage of it here, and yeah, it's not great. So what I've decided to do is make a smaller game, almost like a demo, but not a demo, to use and test my skills to make systems and assets for my main project. I decided to call this smaller game Project Growth. The name is, of course, suited to change. This game will be a roguelite with survival aspects that I'll be incorporating in to make it feel more like the original Hollow Dawn. Now, I do have a few main goals to do today, and that's movement, basic levels, and map generation. And even they sound fairly easy, map generation would prove to be the absolute bane of my existence. The first thing on my to-do list was to set up a basic environment for myself. So I ripped a few of my assets from my main project and ta-da! A good-ish looking environment with a nice enough nighttime skybox to where you couldn't really see. Second thing I added was post-processing to spice up the environment. Though I did end up having a few issues with the package installation, everything ended up fine and I was able to add my ambient occlusion. Now, arguably, the most important part was next, and that was the movement system. I started off by making the player body, then creating the script, most of which was recycled from my main project. And now, oh good lord, what is that? After throwing on some music, I got through a few bug fixes and I was able to get the movement working. But now came the absolute worst part of this entire endeavor, the map generation. My process for this would be to fill the map with rooms, select 2 random rooms at a distance from each other, then set them as a start and end points. To start going about this, I made a 3x3 grid using cubes. These would end up being my visualization for the entire time I was making this system. I then started making the map using a 3x3 2D array. Now, if you don't know what a 2D array is, it is basically the visualized grid I showed a little bit ago, just in code form, where you can assign a value to each cell that exists within this array. Next, I added control for how many rooms would spawn. Then I made the cubes change color when they were a room. I then added a way for doors to be visualized, showing up when the cell next to them was a room. Next, I would add a isolated cell feature that would delete them after it found a cell with no connections. Unfortunately, this system would eventually be deleted as the generation became much more refined later on. Though I did eventually run into a roadblock, which was the start and end functions of the map burning me out completely. Eventually, it came to a point where the frustration was too much for me. I decided that I needed to take a break, so I did. I realized that I don't need to drill myself for taking some time off of a topic that was draining for me. So after a while of playing games with my friends, I decided to tackle the map generation once more. After taking some time for myself, I decided to go through the whole problem again. This time, I wiped the map generation clean and decided to restart. I first reworked the doors, keeping all cell comparisons in a list so that every door individually can reference it. I then changed the sequence. I decided that I would plot points at first at a certain distance from each other, then plot rooms. Even though I tried this tactic already, I was determined to get it to work, but it never did. I tried many times to get it to work like this, but it would never end up correct. The distance variable would act weird, and the formulas I used wouldn't work in this context. So I decided to go about it differently. I would plot the points in the first and bottom rows on the map and fill in the rooms where there was nothing. And this worked extremely well. It's a temporary solution right now, but a good one. I'll be changing it back to my idea of a distance function soon, but that'll be another time. And so, we have reached the end. I got the basics set up for myself, and now everything should be smooth sailing. Next time I will be implementing the actual map part of the generation, and hopefully getting started on the enemy AI. And lastly, if you have any suggestions for names, please leave them in the comments, as I don't really want to keep the name Project Grove all throughout. Goodbye!